What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 12. If you haven't had a chance to check out episode 11 of To the Show We Go, featuring Ed Hand and myself, Andrew Parker, we had Bradley Blaylock, who was happened to be one of the more interesting stories in the Red Sox system this year because he was the very last trade of the Heim Bloom era. And he's obviously been in the Red Sox system for a long time now, since 2018 or 2019, sorry. And he's gone through a ton. Tommy John surgery, he's made the comeback. He dominated this year, but if you go check that one out, he was a great talk. He's now in a new system and everything. And I feel like I say this every single time we have a new guest on, but it's one of the more interesting guys. I know I overuse that line. I abuse it. But I'm serious because I didn't know about Brendan Cellucci until last season. It was a funny story, and I think that we talked about it, Brendan, but I learned about you through another guy at Tulane, Chase Zaleski, and he was kind of like, oh, like one of my buddies at Tulane is in the Red Sox system, and he's pitching down in Greenville, and it was just, I don't know. And I found out about you then. I've followed you ever since. But Brendan, it's an honor to have you on, and I just wanted to see how your off season's treating you so far.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be able to come on and talk it up with you guys yet again. I mean, also like going back to what you were saying, salute to Bradley Blaylock, one of my favorite guys in the Red Sox organization. It was a pleasure to know him, and I wish nothing but the best for him. So y'all go check that one out as well. He's a great dude. But yeah, like I said, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to talking it up with you guys.
And I just want to drop my Brendan Cellucci introduction story because I had I knew you as a name and a scouting report, and then I went to a game in the I think it was the Hudson Valley Renegades against the Greenville Drive in 2022, and I went with my buddy Ryan Brady, and he brought his kid with him, and we stayed a little bit after just as the players were walking out, and there was this wicked tall lefty there, and was kind of just walking away very slowly. And Brady goes, "Who is that guy?" And I look at the scorecard. And it says Brendan Cellucci, and he goes, "Hey, Cellucci, Cellucci." And I was kind of, because I'm always weird about approaching people at games and that kind of thing. Like even in the locker room now, I'm very like, I have to like really muster up the courage to go and talk to people. I'm just not. I've never been good at introductions, but he just goes and yells at you. And you walked over and just started talking to him like you had known him for like the past decade. And I remember you took a picture with his kid, and like even now, his kid Connor, when you ask him who his favorite player is, he says Nick Pivetta, but then he also adds Brendan Cellucci.
Hey, well, second ain't the worst, you know. I mean, yeah, no, I remember exactly when you're talking about, but I mean that's what being a baseball player is all about. It's being able to have a positive impact on the people around you, no matter who they are. I mean, and that's just something that I take into my day to day life. Like, I mean, I learned it growing up and stuff like that, treating everybody with respect. And I think that's something that a lot more athletes can like take into their lives as well. It's especially with like just kind of showing that we're human. We're just people, you know. It's like you said, like sometimes you have to muster up the courage, but at the end of the day, we breathe the same air, you know.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too, because when what I was just saying is like when Chase had kind of told me a little bit about you, and he was kind of pushed me to connect with you. He told me, he's like, go to his Instagram page and go look at his letters by Lucci thing. And I thought it was so interesting at the time because even a year ago, I know now, like we have one of your teammates, Christopher Troy, who's very, very, very open on social media, and he's like an open book. But I feel like you were kind of ahead of the time. Like you were kind of, just what was on your mind every day, like what kind of things were pushing you or driving you, and that's how I kind of became a fan. And that kind of leads me to is like you just started up a new podcast. I wanted to make sure I got it right. It's the Culture Church podcast.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about it. Where did the idea come from, and like what I guess like what is the theme of it?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that because that was something we really wanted to get like a perfect detail of, was the theme. And basically, I had a little like kind of trial run of a podcast last year where I went and I named it "Think Outside Yourself" because I wanted just have interesting people on, like like have people kind of think about like what type of like things are this person going through in their life, both positive and negative, all that stuff. It was great, but I was doing all the work, all the producing, all the sound, all that stuff by myself, and it was exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. So I was like, you know what? I think if I really want to make an impact, if I really want to help change the world, I think I should try and put some money into this, and that's what we did. We went and we got. I have my two best friends who've been doing it with me. Shout out Adam and Denari. And basically, what we're doing is we want to kind of create a church like environment where basically it's like we have an overall message. My best friend Adam, his dad is the pastor at our church, and basically he always like the big thing that I notice is he always has something like an overall message that I feel like I need to hear. And that's what we want to do. We want to have some overall message that can help impact people in a positive way, while at the same time going over news in the world, like sports, all that type of stuff, and like keeping it intriguing, but also connecting it to those themes that we have each week. So that was like the whole idea of it, is we want to have like we're all about the culture, we're all about like sports, music, all that stuff, and we want to tie it into what we go through every week at church. And like at the end of the day, like we had our first episode and we got a lot of positive feedback on it. So I'm just excited about it. I'm excited to keep going with it. And if you're listening, go check it out.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's. I was kind of peeking the Instagram, but it's Culture Church Podcast on Instagram. I think you will probably get a healthy dose of Eagles in the first one. I saw you were wearing something
Dude,
Eagles.
Have to.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, like I love that, and like I mentioned before, is like now we're starting to get into. I feel like people see what Christopher Troy's doing on social media, and they're just like, "Wow, this is so cool!" Like, this guy is giving us like all like what's going on inside his brain and everything. But there's a million other guys out there too that have a story just as unique, or they want to display a message or something, and you're just as interesting. So I feel like it's going to be a great listen. I did see your promo video in the Eagles. I think it was an Eagles bucket hat.
Yeah. I was
Um,
wearing it on the first in the first week. Had to rep my team, especially. I mean, with how well they're doing, except for this past week.
yeah. But no, it's great, and it's going to be a good listen. So I highly recommend it. But I guess just kind of jumping back onto the field. I talked to you last offseason, obviously, just about like kind of like where you came from and everything, and just being in Tulane and everything. But how did the 2023 season, if you had to describe it, how would you word it that your season went?
It was definitely maturing. That was the biggest aspect of it. I mean, I threw a lot at spring training, backed up a lot of big league games, and it felt like an honor. It felt like I was like kind of getting up there in the ranks, and I was able to get a couple big league games in, get that feeling, have a kind of that understanding that like, hey, I deserve to be here. I can do this. Like, and it honestly is a feeling that I didn't really feel in college all that much. It's a feeling that I had a tough time feeling at the very beginning of like my career, because obviously you're surrounded by talent just as good if not better than you, and but that's when it has to get back to the mindset, and that's when that was the big thing that helped mature me this year. So obviously I had a bit of tricep tendonitis at the beginning of the year. Wasn't really sure, thought it was dead arm, stuff like that. Obviously we get up in the cold, it was bugging me, but when I'm going out there throwing 88 to 90 instead of 95 down in spring training, it's pretty frustrating. And I mean, it got even more frustrating. I'm not gonna like beat around the bush with you guys. I got rocked like at the beginning of the year, and it was really tough. And there was at one point, Sean, our pitching coach, came up to me, Sean Isaac, and he was like, "Hey, are you religious?" And I'm like, "Yes, I believe in God and stuff." And he's like, "I don't know what he is putting you through right now, but he's going to get you through it, and you're going to prosper from it." And I just had to keep that in mind, because like that was kind of the overall focus, was like, yes, this hurts. It hurts to go out there every time and not have my best stuff. It hurts to not have my best control and be walking guys, and it hurts when guys hit it over the fence, but it's not going to last forever. And there was a point where they put me on the dead list. I got that kind of like that tendonitis, that dead arm cleared up. It felt good. I was throwing hard again. I fixed some of my mechanics to kind of get back over the top a little more and have that sharp hard slider. And when I came back, it was like night and day. And it was, I kid you not, the best feeling in the world to go out there after that start I had to the season and just dominate as much like the rest of the season. And I say that like in the most humble way possible, because to be perfectly honest with you guys, I've never thrown the ball as consistently or as well as I did the second half of the year. And it's just something that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that I even went through that hardship at the beginning of the year. I'm grateful that I finished strong. And I'm grateful that I get to go into an off season with a more mature mind, understanding of what I need to do and how I can do it, so that I can come back next year better and hopefully more consistent.
So it really is a tale of two seasons when you look at the numbers. So it's interesting hearing that, I guess, like what you were going through really matches what those numbers were.
Yeah.
Did you find that things would snowball and just get worse? Like you get hit one outing and then you'd kind of bring that into the next outing and it would continue to snowball. And that trip to the development list, what did you do during that to kind of reset yourself mentally?
So yeah, to answer like the first part of your question, it would feel like it was snowballing, because like, I mean, my first outing of the year, I think I walked a couple guys, and like a couple runs came in after they came out of the game, and then it just felt like an uphill battle from there. And I felt like I had to like make up for all of like the crap that's been happening before this outing in that outing, when obviously you have to chip at it piece by piece by piece to obviously gain that consistency. But that was part of the maturing that I needed, was the fact that I need to understand each outing is its own individual outing, each pitch is its own individual pitch. And when you look at it like that, it takes a lot of pressure off your shoulders. So you're not just like, I have to do this to be better, to get my ERA down, to help the team win, and like all that stuff. That's a lot of pressure to have. But when you look at it as like that was the biggest thing, was that when I went on, to answer your second question, when I went on the development list, I just made it my mission to just focus on each pitch individually, whether it's in a bullpen, whether it's just throwing long toss. Each pitch is its own individual battle. And if I'm able to execute it, great. If I don't, who cares? It's over. Like, and when I'm able to do that and look at it as like simplifying it as much as I can, it made it a lot easier to have that confidence out there, knowing, hey, I believe in myself. I know I can do this. I've done this a ton of times. And if I don't, who cares? We move on. We work on the next one, because it's each individual battle. You know?
Do you find that kind of being something that reflects into, your life outside of baseball also? Because I hear that, and, I went into therapy for a few years, and it's very similar to what I was hearing during that, where the past is the past. You can't control that. It's happened. Move forward. Have you found that aspect has affected, just like you've been able to bring that into your day-to-day life as well?
100%. I mean, we're all like, from like a more mental standpoint as to life, everybody goes through stuff, everybody has their trials, their tribulations. And when you have to look, and that's how you have to look at it, is like, yeah, maybe yesterday was a bad day, but just because yesterday was a bad day doesn't mean like you have control over that. You can make it a good day if you put that away, if you understand that that's the past. But if you're dragging that on to the next day, more than likely it's probably going to be another bad day. So like, that's what it's all about, is just living in the moment and understanding that whatever has happened. Like, it's not going to change. It's never going to change, but you have the ability to control what's happening now.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes that might be just in a fan perspective, it might be something that's overlooked a little bit, because just being around guys in Worcester this past year, you would see, I remember talking with AJ Politi, who was one of the best guys in AAA. I think he was like third in saves at the time, but he had gone out and he had blown 2 saves in a row, and he was kind of just like, yeah, that sucked. Like that, like I don't feel good right now, like letting the team down. But then he was like, in the back of my mind though, I remember them like I have 14 saves right now, and I've helped the team out quite a bit. So like I know I can get back to that. So I think it's very underestimated, like how mental and how much you guys go through just in the season alone. And it's like 5 months of the year, and it's like you guys are going through like a battle out there. So I don't think fans realize it. And I didn't really realize it until I was around these guys in the locker room this year. But I wanted to kind of switch lanes here. So I've asked this question a lot to some of the pitchers that we've interviewed. And I'm going to ask it. Ed's going to think I'm overdoing it, but it's a lefty thing, and I'm going to keep on the trend. I just looked at the roster for Portland at the end of the season. You were the only lefty on there.
I was,
and I know Nail got called up a little into the season, and Drohan as well. But was there any more pressure on you that you're like, oh, I am the only name in red out here on the roster card? And I
loved it. I'm not gonna lie, I loved it because so at the beginning of the year we had Skylar Arias, Rio, and Nail in the bullpen, and then Dro was our only starter. So Dro goes out and dominates. Like I can't even explain to you guys how confident everybody it was in when Dro pitched. Like it was ridiculous. Like I can't wait to see what he does next year. So he goes out and dominates. He's out of there. All the other guys kind of get called up throughout the year and stuff like that. And it became a running joke because we would have pitching meetings at the beginning of the week to go over scouting reports like that. It's like we're up here. It's like righties. You look out for this, look out for that. And then it's like Chooch. And then they just they're just talking to me. It's not like there's other lefties around. It's like, hey, this is what you need to do. And then this is what everybody else needs to do. So it was just kind of funny. And I mean, when we had situations where teams would have a lot of lefties in their lineup, I knew that I had a good chance to get in there. And I mean, it was a lot of fun being able to have obviously we would get our innings, our full innings, but know that if there's a couple lefties coming up, I get to go attack them. So it's fun.
I thought it was so interesting because we talked to Nathan Landry down in Greenville, and he had the same thing where he's just like, I was the only lefty on the roster for a lot of the year. And so it's just so interesting. And then Noah Dean said the same thing down in Salem, that he was the only lefty down there. But and then meanwhile in Worcester, there was 7 lefties in the bullpen. So that was fun. But Ed, I know you're gonna think I'm overdoing the lefty thing, but I don't know. It's interesting, man.
We're special, man. We're special.
Joe Jakes used to kind of open my eyes to that this year, where and Nail and a couple of those guys had the lefty gang shirts on. But Joe Jakes was like, I've never been a part of a bullpen with this many lefties, and he's like, it's not usual. So
that honestly, that would kind of freak me out a little bit too. Not gonna lie, if more than 3 or 4 of us are together in a room, you can kind of feel things are unbalanced,
It's kind of wild looking at where you started the year and where you finished it. I think that there's at least to me, just looking through the roster and everything, I put you as the top lefty reliever, pure lefty reliever in the system. Do you have any big plans for next season? Like, what are you hoping for with the 2024 season, and what are you going to be up to this offseason?
I mean, so I did have to answer your first question, I want to be in the bigs. That's the confidence, that's the mindset, that's the goal that is in my mind every single morning I wake up, and I'm going to do absolutely everything I can this offseason to be the best I can and hopefully get there. I know that it's going to be a lot of work. I know that it's going to be hard, but if it was easy, it'd kind of be boring, But so that's where I am on the off season. I'm not traveling a whole bunch. I'm not taking a whole time off. I'm trying to gain some weight, get a little bigger, so that I have some more force riding down the mountain and can put behind that ball, and just be able to sustain a good weight over the season, because usually I'll lose some. But I mean, besides that, it's just about like refining my mechanics, hopefully having like a consistent delivery as much as I can, and obviously just trying to continue what I did last year with how good a feel I had for both my off speed pitches and my fastball, and just going in and attacking anybody that's in the box.
And does that do you feel like any added like pressure or anything with the like since you're Rule 5 eligible this offseason? Is that weighing on your mind at all?
Honestly, no, not really. I know that this game is unpredictable. I knew what I was getting into. It's a business. I know that I'm a reliever, a left-handed reliever too. So obviously, like I said, it's unpredictable. Relievers bounce around all the time. I love this organization. I don't want to go anywhere, but all I want to do is obviously put all the work I have in to be the best baseball player I can be. And whatever, like a lot of things are out of your control, you know? And if the things that are out of your control impact my career, I'm not going to let it impact who I am. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I dreamed of being a Boston Red Sox since I was like a young kid. I still got at my parents' house the Boston Red Sox wallpaper up on my room. I still got Poppy's poster, and that's not going to change. I want to be a Boston Red Sox for as long as I can, and I want to help bring some championships to the city if I can just work hard enough. You know what I mean?
Now, I noticed during spring training, you
Mhm.
had because a couple of games you were pitching. I mean, you were on TV for that, so we got to. It was my first time actually seeing you pitch like live
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
Do you always have the headband on?
Yeah, I do. I kind of it was so I had a like kind of I have a big fondness for the movie The Dark Knight.
Yep, great
And
movie.
yeah, I love that movie. I mean, I'm a big Marvel guy too, but I still think The Dark Knight like trumps all um, superhero movies. And the thing that I really loved was just like the character of the Joker. Like, not saying that he's like valid by any means in
Right.
any like thing he does, but I just love the character. I love like being engaged with Heath Ledger as him. And it's like one of my favorite movie characters of all time. And I love the fact that like sometimes he was misunderstood, but he always like kind of abided by his overall goals. And I understand that in my life a lot. I'm a very outgoing guy. I'm a very like kind of friendly person. I'm an open book, and sometimes that can get looked at as misunderstood too. So I always just kind of like had that like a little aggression on the mound, like, hey, like I kind of see the similarity. So I was like, I'll get a little Joker headband. And I actually got it from Nick York. He had it and he gave it to me. And I was just like, I started pitching well with it, and then I rolled with it. And yeah, so I always wear it now. And honestly, for some of the hats they give us, it makes it more comfortable too.
I just had this conversation with my fiance yesterday because we were on a flight and she downloaded The Dark Knight to
Yeah.
watch on her flight. And then she was like, well, I got to keep watching it. Like, I got to keep watching Dark Knight Rises. Like, after that, like,
Mhm.
she was like, I got to watch it. It's just how she
Yeah.
is. And I was telling her, I was like, Bane is the best is villain like in any
No.
movie. Like,
No.
I love Bane's character. All right. Like,
He's fine, but no. No, I'm sorry. I'm with you, Brendan. I'm with you on the Joker that you could
I'm
not
not
that is
saying
a
it's a bad
magnetic
choice.
performance. You could not look away from him that entire movie. That is his movie.
We're gonna turn like the whole Red Sox fan base into like having this argument.
I'm not dogging on. I love Heath Ledger did an amazing job, and the Joker was a great character. But I told her, I was like, Bane is just like so cool because he just I don't know, he's just like throwing people around. Like, I just
Yeah,
loved him.
he's.
I don't know.
I gotta say,
Um,
those two movies together, they're just absolutely excellent.
oh yeah, she was like I said, she was watching the second one yesterday, and I was just like, I wasn't planning on watching it with her, but then
Mhm.
I got sucked in, so I'm like, it
Yeah.
just happens. Um, I wanted to kind of get into I do something where I kind of go into a little rapid fire where I there's no wrong answers on it, and except for Blaylock had a wrong answer last in the last one about the fried chicken place of the South. So I can't ask you that because you're a Philly guy, so I don't know if you.
Whoa,
Give
what
it.
was the question? What was the question? Because I went to Tulane. I got some good.
Oh, that's a
I
good
know some
point.
good chicken.
All right, we'll put that one number one.
Yeah,
So
let's
I
do it.
asked him. I said he's a Georgia kid, right? So
Mhm.
he's around all the southern fried chicken chains. So
Yeah,
what is number one in your if you had every single fried chicken chain around you, which one would you go to?
Canes, 100%.
That's yeah, that's tough
Dude,
because it's a
No one
Louisiana thing,
agrees
right?
with you.
I get your like. Well, what's yours?
It's Zaxby's, hands down.
Zaxby's. Okay, I see that for like a lot of people. Like I understand that. Like Alex Benellis is obsessed with Zaxby's.
It's good
But
to know.
I mean, in New Orleans, like one of my teammates, his little brother, he's actually with the Yankees now. Or I'm sorry, the White Sox. His name's Connor Pellerin. But Connor Pellerin's little brother, he dates the daughter of the like GM, like owner of Canes. So
Wow.
like I'll tell you this, I had way too much Canes in college. But I mean it made me grow that fondness and yeah, they finally opened one in Philadelphia and I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, no, I love Canes.
Mhm.
I'm a big Canes guy. And they have Canes here in Boston, but I just don't think it's the same as the South. Like, I don't know why. Just like everything in the South tastes a little better, especially
Yeah.
fried. Like when
Yeah.
it's fried and you're in the South, like you know it's gonna be better. But he
I
said
got a rapid
Chick-fil-A,
fire
which
question for you.
What
all
you
right,
got?
let's hear it.
Best cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Where do you get it?
Ishka Bibbles.
Great name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
So
great
I
name.
was down there last year, and we
Mhm.
had Brendan Walter on just before. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's from Delaware, and he recommended Cleavers, so we went to Cleavers, and
Okay. How'd
it
you
was
like
really good. But
money,
Ishka
right?
Bibbles,
Yeah.
I've got to check that out the next time I'm there.
It's
You're not
always
gonna
so
forget that one either.
No, no,
yeah.
I'm not.
It's always so funny like when we go to like different parts of the country and stuff like that and I see like Philly cheesesteak on some people's menus and I'm just like you couldn't pay me to get that. I like no chance. It would ruin it for me. I can't get a cheesesteak outside of Philadelphia.
I can agree with you. I grew up in the St. Louis area, and
Yeah.
I can't get barbecue up here. It's just not the
Mhm.
same.
Oh, I
It's just
bet.
not the
Yeah.
same, man.
I mean, New England barbecue isn't great by any standards,
Yeah,
and I grew up here, so I can tell you that
Yeah.
yeah.
it's not great.
All right. So my second question to you is about one of your true loves. It's Philly sports.
Mhm.
Which I guess championships aside, which Philly sports team has given you your best sports moment in your childhood, other than obviously like a Super Bowl win or World Series or anything?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I bleed green, bro. I love the Eagles. They're my favorite like sports team overall and stuff like that. But I will say I was in my freshman year of college when they won the Super Bowl. So I have to say my favorite sports memory is when the Phillies won the 2008 World Series. Like just that was just such a fun team to watch and my parents let me skip school the next day so we could go down to Philadelphia and go to the parade. And
Oh, that's great.
that's a memory I'll never forget. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely the skipping school for the parade. It's something you're never gonna forget.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I just thought of this. We had talked to you probably, I think last off season. It was probably a
Mhm,
few weeks out from spring training before you were
mhm.
getting there, and I think the Super Bowl was gonna be, or maybe it was the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
I forgot, and I think you were like, "I'm gonna try to get out of this one. I like get out of or
Oh
try to
yeah,
get away for a
I
weekend."
went and talked to because I got they had me come down really early, and I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna talk to our higher ups about like Abe's about if I can just kind of go home for the off day and like maybe miss one day, and he was like, yeah, that's fine, man, because like it wasn't official spring training yet, obviously, and I mean, I practically gave him the biggest hug ever, and then I flew home to watch us lose, and I mean, at least I got to share it with other people that were sad instead of like walking in the locker room next day and everybody be like, "Oh, how'd that game go?" you know?
Yeah. The
Uh,
only guy that could give you anything is Zephyr John because I've heard he goes to
yeah,
every single Chiefs game. So,
hmm he's a
um,
big Chiefs fan. Yep.
Yeah, we got him tomorrow, so I know I'm going to be talking about him tomorrow because I know he's a KU guy too. So,
Mhm.
I'm just going to
all
be
right,
prepping my Taylor Swift questions for him.
Yeah.
yeah. My next question, Ed kind of asked a question, but I'm going to have a spin on it.
Mhm.
What is the best Philly food besides cheesesteak? Like if you had to recommend one food in Philly and it's not cheesesteak, what is it?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. Now, I mean, honestly, like it sounds weird, but like what we're also known for is like pretzels and tasty cakes and stuff like that because they like came up here as well. I mean, if you're talking about like a regular like restaurant, there's a couple Brazilian steakhouses up here that are absolutely phenomenal. And I'm a fiend for steak. I love steak, bro. So and like anytime I get to go to like out to like a Brazilian steakhouse where it's like all you can eat too, it's game over.
Where you're leaving with the meat sweats after. That's
Yeah,
usually what's
100%. But
happening.
it's well
I'm
worth
with you.
it.
Um, all right. Well, I also I had something from Tyler Dearden told me to add this one to my list,
Okay.
but it was he wanted me to ask what was your reaction when the Eagles lost to the Jets on Sunday?
You want to know You want to know something funny? This is why Tyler Dearden asked this. This is the difference between me and Tyler Dearden. I texted him after that game and I said, "Your team looked really good." Like I was being completely honest because the Jets played a very good game, especially defensively. Now, granted, we stunk up the place. We played horrible, but they beat us, and I had to give him credit. I was because like here's the thing: the Jets have not been good for a while.
Oh yeah.
And now that they're on Hard Knocks, all this stuff, they got Aaron Rodgers. I love Aaron Rodgers, so I'm giving them their credit. Like it's cool to see them shine a little bit, but like at the same time, if we get our stuff together, and we play them again, I think it's going to be a different story.
No, I agree 100%. And I mean, come on, we're Patriots fans up here.
Yeah.
We have beaten the Jets for the past 20 years. Like
Mhm.
I get it. But he wanted to make sure I put that on here that
Yeah.
hey, just ask him how he felt. And then he wanted to go in and see if you were 1-5 in your fantasy football league together, but you're 3-3, so he left that one off the list.
You want to leave though? That's funny. I mean, I'd be
Uh,
better, but Justin Jefferson got injured. So, I mean, all credit to him. I still love him, but yeah, that's a big blow, you know.
yeah. No, it's probably your number one pick, right? Like first
Mhm.
overall. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. It
Was there a
happens, man.
Portland Sea Dogs like fantasy league?
yeah. We actually have a couple of our coaches in it as well.
Did you guys get Epi in it?
Yep.
Oh wow.
Epi kicked my butt first week. It hurt because it was so funny because we were clowning him too because he drafted Travis Etienne like extremely early in the draft, like kind of like suspiciously early, and we were all clowning him. We were like, "That's a terrible pick" and stuff. And now Travis Etienne's like the number 2 or number 3 running back in the league right now. And yeah, that first week he took it to me.
That's got to be an interesting dynamic being with your coach in a fantasy league, and he puts you out in the mound and takes the ball from you, and you're like, "Oh man, he
Oh
just."
my god, the funniest part was that that was that first Sunday we were continuing a game that had been suspended in Reading for rain, and they had me start it. So I was like starting the game that we're continuing in like the third. It was after Isaac Coffey pitched, and it was on that Sunday. We had a doubleheader, and he comes up to me, and he's always like very kind of like relaxed with the pitchers, just kind of jokes around with us, like, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, if you don't take Justin Jefferson out of your lineup, I'm not having you start today." And obviously kidding, but it's always great to have like a manager that's kind of on your side that way, not intimidating to like and in the least. So it's we love Epi, you know, he's awesome.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things of just spending time with Chad Tracy in Worcester,
Mhm.
and even he was talking about how good of a job he's doing by having those guys ready that came up
Yeah.
from Portland this year. So I've heard a lot of good stuff about Epi, and Chad Tracy is just an awesome guy as well in
Mhm.
AAA. So I'm sure you'll probably be. I can't like speculate, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming you're going to be in Worcester at some point next year. But Ed, do you have anything final thoughts here?
Final thoughts here. I do have a question, and if you don't want to answer it, then
Mhm.
like no worries there. But
Mhm.
you've talked a bunch about your faith, and
Mhm.
I was just wondering, is that something that you rediscovered as you got older, or has it been a consistent presence in your life? Because I know for me, at least, I'm Jewish and I grew
Mhm.
up, like with a little bit of that in the background, but it didn't really become that significant to me until
Mhm.
I was much older,
Mhm.
and it was more the culture of it than the religious part of it itself. I'm
Yeah.
just curious if that's something that you grew up around and took with you, or if it's something that you like it wasn't necessarily there and then like you rediscovered it or something.
It's really interesting you asked that because it's a good story. So I did not grow up religious at all. My mom is technically Jewish, but her family wasn't like super religious, and my dad is an atheist. And so I they kind of just let me walk my own path. I liked reading up on a lot of Buddhist stuff when I was in like middle school and high school, and I tried to apply those things to my life, but it was never anything very serious. And after I got drafted by the Red Sox, I had a girlfriend in college, and we had a really bad breakup. And even though like I had reached basically, it was right after I got drafted, so a piece of like what I truly wanted in this life, I was still like kind of very like kind of broken on the inside, like for just like how I was feeling at that time. And that was when my friend Adam told me to come to the church, because he had always told me throughout high school, and like we'd lived like far from each other, so I never really like made the time to do it. But I made the time to do it, and I went to church, and I just like kind of felt like something come over me, and I got really like emotional the first time I was there. And because like of the beauty of it, it's a Baptist church, a lot of singing, very high energy. I mean, like my pastor's running around like shouting and stuff like that while the piano plays. And it just really kind of surrounded me with like a presence of like home, a presence of being able to heal and stuff like that. And granted, I there's still like being that was just like 3 or 4 years ago now. So like 4 years in, me obviously learning a lot about it, and but more so being able to take pieces of it and apply it to my own life, how I go about my own life, was something that really helped me, I think, grow as a man, both like not only on the field, but also like trying to be the best person I can be. And I mean, I think if I didn't start going to church, I probably wouldn't have started Letters by Lucci. If I didn't go to church, I don't know if I'd still be in baseball right now, because it's taught me a lot of lessons. So I'm just eternally grateful for it.
I will say I saw an Instagram story by you of, I think, while you were at church and you were kind of like your feet were moving around, and I
Yeah, I
think
was like,
yeah,
I was bouncing
yeah.
to
I was like, it
it.
looks like a good time, man. It
Yeah.
looks great. I think your pastor was just like walking up and down. Like
Mhm.
it looked like a fun time, man.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Hmm. Definitely a pleasure to be there. But yeah, no, it's something that I think it's important to never force it on anybody, but always welcome it. You know.
Yeah, and I appreciate you answering that because I know that can be a personal
Of
thing. So
course,
really appreciate you sharing that.
of course, man.
Well, Brendan, I know we've taken up about like 40 minutes of your time here, and I know it's your off season, and I know you probably want to enjoy it and everything. But like I said, we appreciate the time, and I'm hoping I get to see you in Worcester next year. So I know Ed will probably be back as well
Yeah.
in the clubhouse, and I feel like you'll be a guy that he'll actually go up to. So. Um, but yeah, we appreciate it as always. And the Culture Church podcast. I
Check it out.
can't say it enough. You got to check
That's
it
what I'm
out.
going to be doing after this.
We'll put a link to it. Episode 1's already out, so it'll be good. But Brendan, we appreciate the time.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. It's always awesome having people like you guys in our corner as an organization and as individual players through the highs and lows. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. And yeah, go check out my pod.